Good morning and welcome to our weekly live question and answer series where we usually have Dr. Ella Thorpe, our medical director here at Tustin Longevity Center, joining us and answering your questions that you can post here in the chat area of the section on YouTube. You do need to be logged into YouTube there to do that, but I am monitoring those questions, so go ahead and ask them. If you're having any trouble with YouTube, you can email us your questions and we'll answer them on the following week. Our email is office@tlcdoctors.com. That's office@tlcdoctors.com. As you can see, we're joined today with a guest we're very excited to have with us. This is Trevor Love with Orthomolecular Products. Thanks for joining us, Trevor.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have him. Trevor's been such a great resource to us, as has Orthomolecular. Our doctors here take any company that we recommend their products very seriously, and we've actually been out to Wisconsin to visit the manufacturing facilities of Orthomolecular. We've met with their leadership, and we found this company to just have highest integrity.
Yes.
They have the most efficacious products out there. Dr. and I were just looking at some of our formulas, and probably about 75% of everything we carry is from Orthomolecular. And there's a good reason for that, because unlike other very good companies out there that we also work with, they are not a bandwagon company that jumps on the latest, greatest thing just because there's marketing around it, right? A good example would be Tariva, a curcumin product where a lot of these other companies are saying, oh, our product has the most curcumin extract in it versus what is the best kind of curcumin out there, which we're learning is the whole plant. There's something spectacular about all those micronutrients in there and how they work together.
Absolutely.
So super excited to have Trevor join us today. He's going to be sharing with us some exciting information on SBI Protect. And I do want to mention before I forget, we're doing a little giveaway today. So we're going to be looking at the questions that are submitted today in the chat, and then after today's episode, we're going to randomly select one of those questions to receive a SBI Protect for free, and we will reach out to you to make sure we get that in your hands. So without further ado, Doctor, I'll turn it over to you for opening remarks.
Well, I would like to re-emphasize why we asked Mr. Trevor Love, who represents Orthomolecular, why Orthomolecular stands out as a company in the nutraceutical research, the mission of the company, and why their efforts, their research, their standards. And I'm a chemist, so I've been out there a couple of times, and I know how to look at your intake logs and your sampling and depth of barrel sampling, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit for my patients why Orthomolecular is such an outstanding company.
And just real brief, give us a brief introduction with your background and why you chose to partner with Ortho, Trevor.
So real briefly, my background was in kinesiology, exercise science, and nutrition. So I studied that in college and got my master's in kinesiology. I moved on to become a performance coach, and that is where my kind of continued focus came on cellular health. So for a long time, I was doing this for athletes. We were working on all kind of physical parameters, but eventually the higher you go, so I was working in high school, college, and then professional sports, the more you realize the overlap between the medical industry and the systems and functions of the human body. Whether you're dealing with a patient or a high performer, it became very apparent to me that the same principles mattered, and those were consistent across all human beings, all organisms, and all organs and functions. So I was able to move away from the sport world into functional medicine because of a passion for addressing and optimizing the human body. And so I partnered with Orthomolecular because they have an astounding science team. They were a good fit for me because they were stubborn to the science, and like you said, not necessarily chasing marketing.
Right.
And we have clinicians, we have experts on staff, we have PhDs, and everything is put through the funnel of what is best and what is the most proven for the patient. And so, that's kind of what directed me in my career towards ortho, and I think that's why we aligned so well here at TLC. Yeah.
Right.
And what is the mission of Orthomolecular?
Yeah, so the mission of ortho, as you know probably, is to transform the practice of medicine. And so we know that there's a bigger momentum, a bigger tidal wave coming, and that's really the integration, a repetitiveness of integrative medicine. And so it's this approach of looking at the entire picture, this holistic approach in optimizing the human body. So we do that a lot through research and education and doing studies with the Lifestyle Matrix Resource Center and providing materials to support functional and integrative medicine. And that's just part of the company, and the other part is actually providing the products. And so the mission is to transform medicine so that you as patients have the best outcomes. Yeah.
And what do you find when you're seeing physicians kind of de novo? You know my history. My father was already in food research. I was born to do this kind of preventative integrative care. But when you find a doctor who is not born out of that chemistry background, how do you deal with those kind of physicians to help them?
Yeah, you had a great quote a couple weeks ago, and I see this weekly, which is medical school does not prioritize preventative medicine.
Right.
And it is the MDs that I meet that inspire me the most, because you've been through traditional medical school, and it takes a certain amount of passion, conviction, and pursuit to pursue integrative and functional medicine, because that's not naturally a part of the path. And so it's like anyone, when you trust them because of what they've been through. So I trust my MDs the most because they've seen the light, and they've been trained traditionally, and they know what's best for the patient. So typically when I interact with traditional MDs or allopathic MDs, they come in all shapes and sizes and different forms and convictions and beliefs, but the goal is just to educate on, hey, here's what's new, here's what the latest data is showing. Have you considered the root cause of the dysfunction? Are you really looking at reducing a symptom with pharmaceuticals, which are completely necessary at times, but are you really looking at the root cause of disease and all of the potential lifestyle signals that could fix that root cause? And that's what I appreciate about integrative practitioners, is that your job is not to keep patients on a symptom lowering prescription. Your job is to fix them, get to the root cause of the source of the problem. So yeah.
Could you also say one more statement about the Lifestyle Matrix educational program that Orthomolecular has?
Yeah. So the easiest way to understand the Lifestyle Matrix would be looking at the FDA system for diagnosed, prescribed for traditional diseases, and the way a drug is approved through a pharmaceutical process for a disease and then a drug. What we are trying to do at Ortho, and what we have been doing for about a decade, is formalize the process of functional medicine, because this is so new, because it's lacked structure, and it is, medicine didn't start here, maybe in some countries. Actually, arguably it did start there, but the recent medicine did not stay there.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is provide structure for doctors to use a similar diagnose, prescribe, but you're prescribing lifestyle medicine.
I see we're already getting a lot of questions coming in,
Yeah.
Trevor and Dr. E. And I want to make sure that we touch on one thing that was really exciting to see, and that is the new clinical trial that is coming out looking at COVID and treating it with SBI Protect. So could you explain a little bit to us what the idea behind that study is and what SBI Protect is and how it might affect COVID patients?
So SBI stands for serum-derived bovine immunoglobulin. So from the blood vessel, bovine being cow, immunoglobulin being a protein of the immune system. So the raw material in SBI Protect is immunolin, and the article that Talon's referencing, I have here, the title is, this is public, so you can Google this, InterraHealth announces approval of COVID-19 clinical trial using Interrogam in Spain. So very exciting, because this is a natural product available through Orthomolecular. Interrogam is the medical food that InterraHealth uses in the pharmaceutical space. So not to be confused, they're not the same name. They use the same raw material. So if you look on the back of SBI, it says immunolin. If you look on it, Interrogam, it says immunolin. So same raw material. But the point is that you have a natural product entering a COVID clinical trial, 420 patients in Spain. They're testing IL-6, so an inflammatory marker at 2 weeks, disease progression at 2 weeks, and then all GI markers of inflammation, leaky gut, permeability at the end point of the trial. So even if we don't know what the results may be, there's not a lot of public information on this, as probably on purpose. But we know it's exciting because
Right.
this is a product that we've been behind for about 6 or 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a 57 clinical trials for IBS, IBD. It's an immunoglobulin antibody formula that fixes leaky gut. It binds to dangerous things like bacteria, viruses, toxins, and it's been effective for a long time for immunity. But now it's being pushed into the formal process of testing on a specific disease. Yeah.
That's exciting to hear. And we know that the gut is such an important system, a gateway into our bodies. And as much as 80% is estimated of our entire immune system lines our gut.
Yeah.
Hey guys, real quick, people are saying that the live stream keeps like just turning off and turning back on. However, I do think we're still recording.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we can still answer the questions that are posted. We can still say everything we want to say, and we'll post it later. But they are saying that it just turns off for them every now and then.
Okay. So that was Blake behind the camera just saying we might be having some YouTube technical difficulties, but this video is hopefully recording and we'll upload it after the stream. And we are still seeing questions coming in, so hopefully we're good there.
Sounds good.
Doctor, do you have anything you want to add to that study or why you choose to use, why we recommend SBI Protect?
It's the science. Everything that we do here at Tustin Longevity Center is based on science and evidence-based medicine in a preventative paradigm. And we have excellent results. I use SBI Protect in the patients with all my gut complaints, and I have a tremendous improvement. And of course, we here at Tustin Longevity really don't have any patient population that suffered from the COVID-19 scenario because we push prevention all the time. We had them on zinc in our multivitamin mineral. We had them on D with vitamin K2. We had them on the low carbohydrate, BMI lowering lifestyle and diet. We had them on enough water. We had them getting a good night's sleep. We told them not to eat late. We had them taking all these various immune enhancing supplementation. So the body of our patients, I really know of none of my patients that picked up the COVID-19. So let's go to questions.
And I just want to say, I see a ton of questions coming in, which I'm really excited about. And if we do not have time to get to all the questions today, in the very least, we will start with those questions on the following week. But Doctor, I'm also seeing maybe perhaps a need here where we just record a session and we catch up on some of these questions and we'll post that to the YouTube page as well. So keep your eyes peeled and make sure that we could go longer. Make sure that you subscribe. That would help us out a lot, and it'll also let you know when we do post a new video. And if you're finding this content valuable, please like the video. That helps us as well too. Excellent. So can I go ahead and dive into some questions? We had some from last week. Where we left off was, what are some foods that help increase iodine and potassium?
Well, all the seaweed foods, all the fishing industry and such are your main sources of iodine. But then you have to ask the question, how good is the quality, and you have to test it. This is where the chemistry and the training of the physician has to go into. It's one thing to say seaweed gives you iodine, then the physician, clinician has to say effectively how much and under what laboratory was this product tested to establish their marketing claims.
Right.
And in all of my experience, the American diet is deficient in iodine. And in all of my testing for iodine sufficiency,
Over
I
many
find
years.
many.
How many patients
20,
have been in
20 years.
the good range of iodine that you've tested?
Maybe 2 people in 20 years have I seen adequate levels of iodine. And iodine is so important in mental health, in the development of the newborn baby, in thyroid and metabolism, in your immune health, in prostate health, in breast health, ovarian and uterine health, and so much more, because it's part of cellular metabolism. So I like to just, I'm a pragmatic doctor, and I just ask my patients to take 1 iodine tablet a day, or at least every other day. That's 12.5 milligrams. If you look at Japanese women, the Asian women who have a much higher diet in the seafood and seaweed industry, their typical daily consumption on an average day, whether they're pregnant or they're elderly, is 12.5 milligrams. That's why I chose a 12.5 milligram tablet. Okay, so our nutrients here are based on science-based evidence.
Yes.
Okay. We go above that when you have such a low level, and in general I don't need to test everyone because I would say about 97% of all my patients are low. So I would say for the first month I'll have them take 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams depending on what their clinical situation. If they're fighting cancer of the prostate or the breast, I might put them on 25-50 milligrams daily for a month and then drop them down to 12.5. I take 25 milligrams most days of my life, and I never expect to get any of those problems.
Yeah, it's such an essential nutrient to take, and especially if there's any fear of radiation or radiation exposure, isn't it important to take iodine?
Absolutely. When Fukushima occurred March 11th, 2011, I saw 3 months later, around June of 2011, the uranium in all my heavy metal testing go up. And I was so happy all my patients were on iodine.
Yes.
So we saw that wave, that plume in the jet stream, and lead is part of it, and all these toxic metals, because China does not have Environmental Protection Agency requirements on their belching of their coal-fired industry, and the jet stream goes our direction, folks. So those poor people suffer under such a government that doesn't protect them.
So short answer, we're not so sure that you can get sufficient iodine and potassium from your food, so we prescribe iodine to all of our patients. And the most common form of that is going to be iodoral, and you can find that in our well store. There's a couple other versions of it too, like iThroid. Next question, this might be a good one for Trevor. I can be mistaken on some info, but I don't understand why one needs supplements that are derived from plants if eating plants and vitamins such as beta-carotene can't be absorbed by our body. So it sounds like you're saying if you're eating a diet that's rich in plants, why do you need to take vitamins?
Yeah. That's a common question. My take would be there's some really good studies on the soil deficiencies that have accumulated over the industrialization of our company, showing here's what it was in 1950 when you grew plants versus 1975 versus 2000 versus 2020. And what we're finding is it's more and more challenging to meet not only the daily requirements of micronutrients, but the optimal requirements of micronutrients from your food. Now, does that belittle the necessity for eating well? Absolutely not.
No.
That is the foundation of health, in my opinion, and many doctors' opinions. So how do you approach supplements when you are optimally eating is really looking at what Dr. E talks about, which is what are the most common deficiencies. That's where we start to look at things like zinc and magnesium and vitamin D that's deficient in 72% of the population.
Wow.
So yes, you can eat well, but there's also many micronutrients that are challenging to get a substantial dose from your diet, and that's when you bring in the supplement, the definition of the word supplement, to supplement an already healthy lifestyle.
Good answer, Trevor.
There's also research that talks about irrigation systems that have been implemented throughout the nation. And years ago, there would be flooding and flood plains, and then the silt would land, and then the next year's crops would be bumper crops, and they would be very dense in the minerals, nutrients that would be drawn up into those plants. So the study of irrigation parallels the study of deficiencies. Okay, so as we controlled flooding, which is a good thing, we had mineral deficiencies emerge. So that's quite an interesting phenomena.
I do want to make sure we touch on the absorption as well there too, and I know this came up recently as we were discussing Tariva and the whole plant, because absorption is something that's touted a lot in the supplement industry.
Yeah, it's a complicated question. I think the most important takeaway from absorption is that it depends on the nutrient that you're referring to, and I think oftentimes we refer to all supplements as more absorption is better, and often we have to ask ourselves, So micronutrients, for the most part, as you know, like with IVs, micronutrient absorption is extremely important in the form of vitamins and minerals. So usually more absorption is better in that category. That's a fairly accepted answer. When it comes to phytonutrients and these botanicals and food-derived nutrients, it's not always even glutathione, it's not always the case. And so when you look at things that are derived from food typically are supposed to be absorbed by the gut, interact with the microbiome, and signal from the microbiome. So it shouldn't be a surprise that maybe delivering a lot of phytonutrients that are extracted from botanicals to bypass the gut to improve absorption may not get better outcomes for patients that are looking to improve a condition. And so Tariva is an example, a turmeric, which is the body has a natural detoxification system. It doesn't like too much curcumin all at once. And so recent data has shown by delivering curcumin with the rest of the turmeric plant to the gut as opposed to bypassing it, it will decrease the amount of detoxification of that botanical or that xenobiotic, and it will start the signaling in the gut, where we agree is the interface that affects the rest of the organs in our body. Right. So I guess the answer is it depends. Yeah.
And a classic example are minerals.
Yeah.
Minerals, to sell a cheap product on the passing by, like at a Walmart or a GNC, you're going to see mineral oxides.
Yes.
Whereas we need mineral amino acid chelates,
right,
which are more costly but much more valuable in this time of COVID. Zinc should not be zinc oxide. It should be a zinc chelate with an amino acid. Then you have to say, over the years, we've seen such destruction of the food that has harmed the gut lining that we are seeing children today, as opposed to my generation. No one had a peanut allergy in my grammar school class in the 1950s when I was in grammar school. Nobody.
Yeah.
Today, my grandsons, even my sons, would see 30%, many kids with food specialty requirements. So all the antibiotics have injured us, all the synthetic and additives to the foods and the destruction of the fats through hydrogenation have harmed the protective lining so that it's more difficult for the stomach to do its absorption and work. Then you have to add to the fact that if you're blood type A, A's as a class of people don't make enough digestive enzymes and betaine hydrochloric acid to help prepare the food to be chopped up for the lower gut to assimilate. So there are many reasons why supplementation is required today until medicine so changes and we respect the land and we start understanding, yes, let's irrigate, but let's make sure that instead of putting just potassium, phosphorus, and nitrogen as a fertilizer, we need a better fertilizer than those three elements on our land.
You mentioned the enzymes as well too, which I just think are so fascinating, and it really speaks to what we've done to our food chain supply. A good example would be milk or just packaged and processed foods where it comes with the enzymes that God put in there that are designed to help us break the food down. But milk, we take it, we superheat it, we shake it all up, and it destroys those enzymes. And what do we have? We have a problem digesting milk versus a raw milk.
Right.
So that's why we need supplementation to help, because our body's either not producing enough enzymes or the food doesn't have the enzymes intact any longer.
Yeah, and on that note, I mean, you look at the other component of supplements that we didn't really talk about, but you just hinted at, which is like probiotics would be an example. It's very challenging to deliver 200 billion, 100 billion, or 250 billion probiotics through food. And so supplementation gives the opportunity to hyperdose something because of a patient that may needs a hyperdose because of a dysfunction. So we always talk about there's lifestyle maintenance, there's augmented intervention, and then there's emergency. And so the answer for me for someone that says why would you need to supplement would be, it depends on where you fall in the continuum, and if you need emergency or augmented intervention, eating maybe a fermented yogurt is not going to fix IBS.
Correct.
But if you deliver hyperdosed ingredients in a regimented plan, those reflect the severity of the condition. So.
Yeah, I know. I rarely ever have to take a antibiotic, but the times that I have, I've reached immediately for the probiotic 225 just to recolonize what's been destroyed.
Yeah.
Another question, this should hopefully be a quick answer. You mentioned fish oil in last week's episode. Is cod liver oil not good?
I'm not going to say cod liver oil is not good. I am going to say, how can you claim that product on that shelf is not rancidified through God knows where it was sitting, what heat it was under. Maybe it was on the back dock in the hot sun in 123 degrees for 2 hours. You see, these items are so volatile and sensitive to heat and light that it is almost a chemistry challenge for oils to not be rancid by the time you take it as a product. It is very challenging, let me tell you. So yes, it is a question whether or not cod liver oil that you think you're taking is delivering you healthy oils, whereas you might be taking rancid oils.
Yeah. The catch to capsule in the industry, they call this the catch to capsule term, is average 18 to 36 months.
Right.
Wow.
From the second the fish is caught. So
Right.
imagine in your freezer, that's a long time.
Yeah. Okay, next question. And guys, thanks again. We love the interaction, all the questions you're posting up there. And we are going to select somebody who's asking a question today to receive that SBI Protect for free. We'll reach out to you in next week's episode at the latest. We've got another question that came in via email, office@tlcdoctors.com. This is, hi Dr. Rita and Talon, what do you recommend to treat Lyme disease? Also, what do you recommend to treat mono? I had a CD57 of 18 and it's unclear as to whether I have mono or Lyme disease. Thank you so much. Love the YouTube videos.
That's a whole 30-minute discussion right there, because that's such a chronic medical problem. These subcellular bacteria like Lyme, Bordetella, Mycoplasma, Chlamydia, pneumoniae type, these are cell wall-less bacteria and pathogens, and our immune system is being challenged for all the reasons that we just brought up to you. We would definitely recommend a very low-carb diet, some autophagy, some fasting.
Yes.
We would definitely recommend high-dose vitamin C and even some ozone treatments. We would definitely recommend, depending on, and especially for COVID-19, there's a micro clotting occurring, almost like high altitude oxygen deprivation sickness, and this kind of makes you fatigued and worn out too long. So EDTA chelation therapy is well known as a microvasculature enhancer, improves oxygenation, and has an antiplatelet activity. We would definitely recommend vitamin D monitored to be at high optimal levels. We would definitely recommend enzyme therapy to clean away debris, systemic enzymes. We would need to know your blood type. We would also consider targeted antibiotic therapies. Remember, we're regular allopathic doctors, and so our infectious disease consults will maybe recommend a series of doxycycline or some other antibiotic along with our adjunctive immune enhancing therapies. And we normally see these chronic fatigue, these Lyme patients, these post-viral syndrome catastrophes from mono greatly improve with these therapies, and that's how I would approach it, and any of the doctors here.
Right. And as I think you said from the get-go, that this could be a huge conversation. So perhaps that's something we will revisit in a future series. We'll do a little talk just on Lyme's disease, mono, and these types of things. I actually got another question emailed on Lyme's disease. So that'll be a good one to circle back to. We are going to be posting some non-live, just educational videos. Our PA Priya Patel has already recorded a couple topic specific. So make sure that you're subscribed and look for those videos as well too. Jumping back into the questions, and we are starting to run short on time here. I did see something come in on iodine just earlier. Is iodine supplementation with Lugol's a good idea?
Yes, that'd be equivalent. It's just that's a liquid form, and if you spill it, you stain it, and you've destroyed your clothes. And since I find the tablet never stained a thing, it's just so much easier to do that way.
Awesome. Thanks, Doc. I've heard many times you advocating EDTA chelation to treat heavy metal related diseases, but how is oral EDTA chelators for those who are on a tight budget?
I would not put down oral chelators because everything you're eating, everything you're drinking, and your air, that gut is being exposed to heavy metals. And so if you can chelate it while it's still in the canal, you're getting some advantage. But you have to understand the disease of being already 40 years old or plus, and your body's starting, bones are demineralizing. You are becoming an auto intoxicator as you pour out your own lead and cadmium and such. Those oral cilantro, volcanic ash like zeolite, the garlic, the chlorella products, and by the way,
zeolite. There's another question about zeolite.
Yeah, zeolite, is another hexagonal, octagonal construct of volcanic ash. Lipoic acid can be chemistry can be made to have this three-dimensional way to attract the positive cations of the toxic metals. But the seriousness of the disease is never going to be approached by these oral products. They will help you, but they are not at that treatment level. That would be like saying, oh, you've got strep throat, 104 fever, and the doctor gives you 2 milligrams of penicillin once a day instead of 1,000 milligrams. Do you see what I'm saying? That correlation? I'm not against it, but it is not capable of doing the job that the IV will do.
And I've heard you say many times, if you can't afford to do IV chelation, once a week as I've recommended, even twice a year, if they could, it would be better probably than trying to buy some oral chelator.
Correct. Any intravenous chelation therapy you do is an advantage. Now, I did do the suppository research.
Yes.
And there is only one pharmacy, Harbor Compounding Pharmacy, that makes up the base that carries the EDTA in it so that it's absorbed through the lining of the rectum there, the sigmoid colon. The research that went into that is astronomical. The animal studies, the pharmacokinetics of it showed a biphasic wave. We know that it is valuable, and it is only with what we did the research on, and we had all the men and the tremendous studies. So you have to, this is under prescription. If you want it, you have to come here and I can prescribe it through Harbor Compounding only because they have the patent with us. And God help us pray that the FDA will, do something to allow us to get the patent on that,
Yes.
or the approval or whatever it takes. But it takes money, and teaching 8 people a day how to live well just will not make me the wealthy doctor that it takes without some big daddy bucks to do tremendous breakthroughs. And I will probably kill myself trying to help you all with the way I give away things and live so humbly. But believe me, I am published. We have proven it with a suppository. But even that, it takes 3 suppositories to equal the value of 1 IV.
Right. Okay. Good answer there. And just to touch on that, we didn't mention it earlier, just a brief disclaimer. This is supposed to be educational, general information out there, and we're trying to reach more people than I can put in front of the doctor during the daytime. So if for specific questions, or you mentioned the EDTA suppository, which requires a prescription, make sure that you give our office a call or find a good functional integrative physician and schedule with them and ask them specific questions for your health there. So this is not intended to be specific medical advice. We do here offer telehealth visits as well too. And I guess one benefit of COVID is the insurance companies are allowing this to be billed for the most part. So you can do a FaceTime visit with a doctor here, even as a new patient, and we can answer specific questions. I do see that we're over time here, and we just had so many questions come in. Thank you guys for that. I do want to end on one that I think will be a great question for Trevor, and thank him for coming out today. And Trevor, this question is about turmeric. This comes from Robert. He says, question about turmeric curcumin. No matter how small amount I try to take, I get diarrhea. I want the benefits, but I can't seem to tolerate it.
Well, this will be also a good one for Dr. E to chime in. So I think in general, there are some sensitivities that no matter what you take, we don't want to aggravate the system. Right. And so at some point, we have to ask, what are good alternatives? It's potential that we need to know what turmeric, what curcumin you're taking. Are you taking a natural spice? Are you taking a supplement? Is it 95% curcuminoids, or is it just ground turmeric whole complex? So I think that would be something to report to Dr. E, is like, here's the type of turmeric I'm taking, or curcumin.
And we really like Tariva because it's the whole plant.
Exactly. So one of the problems with curcumin is it's hydrophobic. It's not water soluble. So if you use our Tariva, it is water soluble. So it brings in fibers, curcuminoids, oils, and proteins from the plant. So it's potential that it would not aggravate as much. But I would say there's many beneficial anti-inflammatories out there, and not to worry if curcumin just is the one that your body doesn't like. You can always find an alternative, but let's nail down what you're taking and why that specific form is causing that reaction. Yeah.
Good answer, Trevor.
I don't have anything to add to that excellent answer. I want to make a couple of statements. So here are the articles that I was ready to go over. And I really think we should turn this into an evening, hour-long thing, because over the year we've been doing this, and the volume of patients and the many questions, I would like you, the audience, to email the office here at what is that?
TLCdoctors.com. That's TLC is in Tustin Longevity Center, doctorsplural.com.
TLCdoctors.com. If you're in favor of like a Thursday evening or a Wednesday evening, that would be probably better, because I wanted to go over so many wonderful articles. I have a item here that covers 66 different worldwide peer-reviewed articles on hydroxychloroquine, and I just don't have the time to get to this. Plus, I have some very important information on testing and statistics. So maybe we should take a vote and flip this to a Wednesday evening, Tuesday evening, or a Thursday evening, and do it for an hour. 55 minutes. Please give us that feedback. Please share, like, and subscribe.
Well, again, thank you so much for tuning in to our weekly live question and answer. We definitely went over today, and Doctor has a patient, I'm sure, in the lobby getting ready for her visit right now. I want to give a special thanks to Trevor for joining us today. I thought this was fun. I'd love to have Trevor back sometime soon, if that would be good with you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in, and I know we didn't get to a lot of your questions today, and I apologize that we ran out of time, but we will start with those questions next week. We will be randomly selecting one of those questions asked in the chat today, putting the name into the hat, and next week we'll announce who that winner is. We want to get you that SBI Protect, and we'll explain then how to reach out to us and give us your information, since a lot of these names we don't know exactly who you are. But thanks for joining us. Be sure to share, like, subscribe, and tell your friends and family about this channel, and we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 9:45 a.m. Pacific to do another live Q&A. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Bye.